Welcome to another Beacons of Light, where we share the gospel to those who are searching for Christ, and we find Him every day at St. Vincent de Paul. Joining me today is Miss Linda Reed with our shelter program at St. Vincent de Paul. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Thank you for having me this morning. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you've been a staff member for a long time at St. Vincent de Paul, but you started as a volunteer. Tell us a little bit about when you started and what you've seen at St. Vincent de Paul since that time.
I had a friend that was actually working there, and I thought that would be a good opportunity for me to share in the problems that we were having with the disaster, which was Katrina. Mm-hmm. And so I decided I would start volunteering, in which that actually led to a job opportunity. And in 2007, I actually became an employee in the disaster Katrina. And so from that point on, I have been excited and just overjoyed with working with the homeless population in Baton Rouge. And of course, we've seen the face of homelessness change over the last 15 years quite a bit, especially in our past 5 years. And so I've had an opportunity to serve the community in the capacity of case management and also shelter assistance in the directorship. And so it's been a pleasure working with the organization as well as our community partners.
No doubt. And, you know, faith is such an essential element of what we do at St. Vincent de Paul. And you come from a different faith background than Catholic. Talk a little bit about your faith, why it's important, and how it helps you to deal with some of the stressful situations that we deal with at St. Vincent de Paul.
I can truly say that my faith as a Baptist has been exceedingly a plus for dealing with the problems that we have in our community for the homeless. And especially as an employee, that I can see it up front. I can see it face to face, and it allows my faith to be displayed. And when I say to be displayed, to show the love of Christ.
Which is
from the front door to the shelter, to the dining hall, to the pharmacy, and all of the programs that we serve in this community.
I love the imagery, opening that front door, and whether you're Baptist, Catholic, we talked before we went on air about we all worship the same God.
Yes.
He calls us to open that door up from the front to the back to the side, whatever. And certainly when you see some of the cases that you've seen over the course of the last decade and a half, they're heart-wrenching, aren't they?
The cases that we see today, it's a different look, first of all, because the mental illness in our community has escalated to another level of mental illnesses, and it's due to some of the programs that were cut off around the early 90s. And so we're still faced with that issue. However, we offer those services to the homeless population to have a meal.
Yes.
And that's the faith that we display every day at St. Vincent de Paul. When those persons that are not able to have a meal at home, they can come to St. Vincent de Paul and have a meal. If they're homeless, they have an opportunity to come into the shelter. And that is one of the main programs that we have at St. Vincent de Paul to provide shelter. And shelter is the basic need for living day by day. And so the day-by-day services that we offer are shelter, meals, and even clothing items. And so they get a complete packet when they come to St. Vincent de Paul.
And that's what we try to do when we open that door. We're opening it for Christ, everyone that comes to us. And again, I love that imagery because that's what we do. And, you know, going back 2007 and even even 2010 and 12, a lot of the people that came to the shelter, they did need those basic needs of meals and clothes and whatever. But now much greater need that we see because people used to come in, stay with us for a brief moment, and they would self-resolve because they weren't suffering from mental illness or they weren't suffering from some disability. But today, that's not the case, is it?
Not the case at all, Michael. In fact, the problem that we see with the mental illness is at a totally different level, and the services that are needed for those individuals are really not as available. And so because of that, we have gone the extra mile to give the services that we are able to deliver. And so they come to see the face of Christ at St. Vincent de Paul because they know that when they get there, we have something to offer. If it's the meal, we feed them every day, 365 a year. If it's clothing, we give vouchers to them to go to the thrift store. Not only that, but we also have a pharmacy that is available to those individuals who can't pay for their medications. And so it's a full scope of programs that we have to deliver services for those individuals at a different level, because when we saw it in 2015, it was totally different from what we see now. And so because of that, we have had to change our method of serving them to become more and more active in providing additional services.
And we've always been built on the model of giving a hand up, not a hand out. And we still embrace that because people do have to self-resolve, because although we do more grabbing that hand and walking them through the process today, because we need to do that, we still want to make them as independent as possible. Right, Linda? We've got about a minute to go.
We want to make sure that we offer the services that not only help them at the moment, but to transition them from the place that they are when they walk in that front door to leaving out of the door more self-sufficient. And so we've seen the progress that happens from the time that they enter into the shelter until the time that they sometimes exit, but sometimes they come back as well because they see the service, they see the face of Christ, they see what we offer, and we offer it with love.
And that's what we do every day at St. Vincent de Paul. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about, in our community, we're seeing more encampments and more people experiencing homelessness. We're going to talk about what we do to resolve that situation. For over 20 years, the St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy has served our area. We provide prescription medicines for those who have nowhere to turn for this most basic healthcare need. Please, if you need your medicine or you know a family member that needs their medicine, contact us. Kay, how can they get in touch?
383-7450.
Give us a call today and spread the word so that we can ensure no one goes without their prescription medication. Welcome back to Beacons of Light. Again, Miss Linda Reed is here with me. We're talking about the shelter, talking about a friend that has retired now, Mr. Carl Taylor, who we both look up to. He's a great man, man with a lot of energy, and of course he's 6'5". That's why we love, one reason that we look up to him. But he did a wonderful job for many years, and he really worked mostly with the men, exclusively almost. And he used to have an old saying that, you need to find a job. You got to find a job, or we're not giving you that handout. We're here to help you in your next step. And while that worked for many, many years, so many, as we said in the first segment that we serve today, they're suffering from mental illness, they're suffering from disability, some addiction. The first thing to help them is not necessarily forcing them to get a job, because they're not going to hold it if they get it. So why is it important what we do with case management?
The most important part of case management today, compared to that of the time when Mr. Carl was there, is somewhat different.
Right.
And so we have to meet them where the need is. And most of the time, the need is possibly the medication.
Yeah.
And the medication is so important, right, that we provide that service so that we can maintain safety,
right,
so that we can maintain stability.
Right.
And so that is one of the things that we have to look at primarily, so that we address the issue that is most needed. And so St. Vincent de Paul has case managers that today are really, really in tune to the mental illness issues that are more prevalent than they were 10 years ago, 5 years ago even. And so we have an opportunity now to share in providing the additional services that they really do need, because the job would not be the person, the opportunity,
right,
that individual, the guest, needs, right, at that time. So right, we try our best to meet them where they are, and especially with the mental illnesses.
Right. And, 10 years ago, we saw about 33% of those we were blessed to serve that were experiencing homelessness had mental illness. Today, it's about 70%. And even though it's still such a large number of those that we help, we do still see every day people that come in and they're able to self-resolve with little or no case management. You remember some stories about someone that we kind of touched in a powerful way?
We've touched many, but there are a couple of stories that I would like to share with you. And one of those is a single young lady was visiting our shelter and was not there very long, but she noticed the work that we were doing. And that work impressed us such that she decided to return to school and actually went into the college career as a social worker. And so she was able to obtain a degree in social work. And now she's actually doing the work. And so we have that success story to let others know that that's not the end. It's probably the beginning when you enter into St. Vincent de Paul to something even greater for those individuals who have that potential. And not only that, I have another story that I like to share. And that particular story is about a family. A mother with children, and who was able to find employment, and not only find employment, but she was able to maintain the employment and get a promotion on her job. She was able to get her car repaired, obtain permanent housing, and the story just could go on. But I tell you, we were able to actually be a part of the story. Right. And so that story helps others that saw what she could do, that they could do as well. So it gives them that hope that they need in order that they can take that next leap of faith.
Right.
And they can take that faith knowing that if one can do it and St. Vincent de Paul was there to help them, then we can do it as well.
Inspiring. I mean,
Yes.
and you know, right there in that picture, that's St. Louise de Marlac, and she is the
Yes.
patron saint of social workers.
Yes.
And I know she's smiling down. What a powerful story. And we're not using names for confidentiality, but
Yes.
we see so many people and we keep that confidential. But that young lady coming in, being inspired, hit a hard time in her life. We often see people who wake up and they become homeless and they never thought it would happen to them, happen to her, but she did something. She was inspired.
Yes. And she maintained that hope that we inspired her to go and do better, to become self-sufficient, and not only that, be a productive citizen like she desired to be. And her faith was strengthened by the fact that she actually came through St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah, I did not know her when she was a guest at our shelter, but I was next door at the shelter from the kitchen offices building and walked in. I was in a meeting and she came to visit one day. So I had the honor of meeting her. You know, sometimes it's not where you are in life, it's sometimes what you had to go through to get there.
Yes.
She's a great example of it.
And we have many other examples, and I won't leave out the men because Mr. Carl, before he left, was able to help an individual. And believe it or not, the two of us came together to help the individual to go to a nursing home.
Right.
And he was able to enter into the nursing home because he was physically unable to stay at the shelter for any length of time.
Right.
And so he was able to enter, and later on, we were able to actually visit him at the nursing home. He was all smiles, and it gave us such a peace and such a joy to see him in that state of mind that he was in, because he was happy. And so we were joyous as well.
Well, you know, I've mentioned to you about my mother who's in a nursing home, and you know, I thank God that my dad and myself and my sister can be there for her, and we've gotten her the care she needs. But there are a lot of people that come to us, they don't have family, they're older, they end up with dementia or something, and they come to us and they're on the street like that. And so that's one great example of how living the faith and making a difference really made a difference.
We made a big difference with the guest that was the gentleman as well. We don't want to not show that we bias or anything, because we help men and women and children.
That's a great point.
Yes.
I think when we come back in the next segment, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, again, revisit that encampment issue and how you can be a part of the solution at St. Vincent de Paul. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul's first cookbook, Taste and See, is the gift which helps share the goodness of the Lord with those most in need. Featuring recipes from Chef John Foles, each chapter begins with a short story about one of our special work programs. To order your copy of Taste and See, please call the Society or visit our website. Help multiply blessings for the neediest in our community.
My Bicycle Journey, a book that tells a story. It educates, it promotes, and it also provides some leadership. Take the time to purchase this book, and St. Vincent de Paul benefits from all of the proceeds of this book. Please, if you would, give St. Vincent de Paul a call and let me know what you think of My Bicycle Journey.
Welcome back. We're visiting with Miss Linda Reed about all the wonderful sheltering efforts that we do at St. Vincent de Paul. And in the course of time, everybody in Baton Rouge or any big city, you're seeing the number of encampments, people living outside. Sometimes it's single men, sometimes it's even families. And we're seeing more families at our shelter, aren't we, Linda?
Believe it or not, in the past 3 to 5 years, we've seen a large increase of families come to our shelters, and they have 3 to 10 children. And so we have really had to look at serving them in a different way. And so with our new shelter, expansion has offered that service. And so that service gives them an opportunity to bring their kids, their children, to the shelter. And it's no limit on bringing the number of children that are in those families. And so we've had up to the 10 that we mentioned before. And so the 10 that came to our shelter was actually able to remain in the shelter. Mm-hmm. They went to school from the shelter. Mm-hmm. The mother was able to secure employment. And not only that, one of the older children were able to get a job that mm-hmm. was with the family. And that particular family was able to do everything they needed to do in order to, 1, obtain permanent housing, mm-hmm. 2, to maintain their jobs, and 3, to maintain their children in school. And so we saw this large family come into our new expansion shelter, and they were so successful that this is why I'm sharing this story today, because that story lets us know that St. Vincent de Paul was there to bring the family in, and not only bring them in, right. but provide the services that we offer and other resources that were available in our community.
They had no hope, but they found it at St. Vincent de Paul. And as you're telling that story, I'm thinking through how the Holy Spirit kind of led the volunteers that lead the society to saying, hey, we need to expand the number of rooms. That couldn't have happened without the new shelter that was opened in 2018, could we?
Exactly. And so our new expansion shelter mm-hmm. opened up to a different phase of allowing large families
right.
to enter into our shelter. And so today—
parents come in with the families, and also dads with children that are— we don't see that many, but we see a few a year, don't we?
Yes. In fact, the first year that we opened mm-hmm. the expansion shelter, we offered services to a gentleman with children.
Right.
And he was able to bring in the children right. and allow him to renew and regenerate the right. things that were going on in the family, because the mother was not present, but we were able to service the father yes. and the children. And it was a success story as well. And believe it or not, they have come back to share their thanks, their gratitude, that we were there for them. And that hope is nothing like the hope that they receive when they're there, mm-hmm. that you're able to mm-hmm. start all over again, right here at St. Vincent de Paul.
Right, and we see all types of situations, and people come to our door. Sometimes they stay a day, sometimes it's cold weather related, but we're always there to open that door that you said earlier. We want to open it. We're opening it for Christ, aren't we?
We're opening the door, the front door especially.
Yes.
And when we open the door,
yes.
we open with the face of Christ.
Yes.
With the love that we share. We're here to help.
Right.
If it's just a bag of, they come a lot for
right.
the snack bags.
Right.
And they love the snack bags. So
right.
we give snack bags at the door, and it really changes the attitude of those individuals that are in camps.
Right.
Because they're looking for
mm-hmm.
those extra items that they need in order for survival.
Right.
And so we have those bags at the door, and they come daily to get the bags.
Right.
They get those hygiene bags as well. And so we're still providing to those that are not present inside of the shelter, those that are unsheltered, because we know that there are encampments in our Baton Rouge community. And so when they learn about St. Vincent de Paul, we look to see them there because we offer that service to them.
And it's critical. I mean, and sometimes those who we serve, you know, they're not as nice. That's where you really have to put your faith, because you got to realize somebody's suffering from some type of affliction. And so when you help someone maybe seriously suffering from mental illness, and they know that door is a place of hope, it's powerful, isn't it?
Very powerful. I see them often at the door.
Yeah.
And when I go to the door, they always mention the white hair. And so it's really a pleasure to say, I'm here for you. And I'm the lady with the white hair with the bag or whatever you need. So we want you to come so that whatever that we can do to help. As that homeless person, we want to be there.
And we're called to do that. Sometimes it's easy because people are so thankful. Sometimes they're not thankful. Let's just put it that way. But it doesn't matter. We're there to serve. And through the years, you've done such a rocking job of really reaching out, making a difference. And we've got about a minute left. Why are you so committed to St. Vincent de Paul?
I am committed to St. Vincent de Paul because the principles, the faith-based principles that this organization was built on, and those are hope and faith and charity that we offer. It's nothing like it. I think about the Baton Rouge area and even the United States. St. Vincent de Paul has such a unique service to the community, and there's none like it. And our leadership there is superb. And I'm so grateful that I can be a part, because we have the best at St. Vincent de Paul, and we offer the best service that's available. Well,
you are out of this world great. You could have retired many years ago, but you keep with it because you know the importance of our work. Thank you so much for being on the show today, Linda. And if you want to get involved with Linda and the great crew at the St. Vincent de Paul Bishop Hyde Shelter Program, go to svdpbr.org for more information. We'll see you again next week on Beacons of Light.